In 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they did not commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune by reviewing fragrances on YouTube. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the Spray Team.
Hello guys, we're back with another video.
Fellas, it's here.
Hey guys, let's see what our fragrance top 10.
The Spray Team, coming to YouTube soon. Hello everyone and welcome back to the annual star-studded event that is the Mr. Smelly Top 10 Best Fragrances of the Year Awards for 2019. So let's get stuck into it. I've picked out my favourite 10 fragrances that came out this year, 2019. We're in December of that year as I speak. I wanted to include a wide variety of fragrances from designer to niche, but there isn't a men's designer fragrance worthy of a place in this list. I didn't buy a new one that came out this year, I have to say. My honourable mention maybe will go to Gentleman Givenchy Cologne, a lovely iris citrus combination that I may add to my collection. Let's get into the ones that did make the list then. So the first house actually has 2 entries because they've been a real revelation to me this year, this house. And this is the house of Bortnikov. The first one I'm going to mention is Oud Maximus Autumn 19. Oud fragrances are not the kind of thing I'm known to be an expert on, but this one makes me want to get a little bit more involved and a bit more interested in Oud fragrances. So Oud Maximus Autumn 19 is a reissue. They already did Oud Maximus, but because this company uses such high quality rare ingredients, he didn't really want to just re-release the fragrance and call it the same thing, because the smell is going to change because there's so many natural ingredients, different types of rose, oud, musk and stuff that's going into this. So it's Autumn 19 edition of Oud Maximus, and it is a real in your face, maybe challenging oud fragrance, this one. Some of the notes include many types of oud, which don't mean a lot to me, the names. Real deer musk, there's civet in here, I think that's just normal civet. There is a sweetness about the fragrance, there's vanilla in here, lots of spices, there's clove, there's also some tonka bean, frangipani, a couple of different types of rose, many types of rose in fact. So it's you could call it a rose oud combination, but dominant really is the really funky oud, essential muskiness and a nice sweetness about the fragrance as well. Performance, of course, with a name like Oud Maximus, it's a beast. It's a real beast in performance, and it's really made me want to explore this world of true niche, because, you know, forget about the Roger Doves or the really expensive higher end stuff from Creed. Here at least you're not just paying for a name, you're paying for very rare, hard to find ingredients from an artisan perfumer, Dmitry Bortnikov, and that's why I wanted to put this one in the list. Don't forget, if you'd like to join the Smelly Army private members club over on Patreon, there's a link in the description to do that. It costs just $2 a month and you get an extra video from me every week, plus you get to watch everything I've already uploaded in there. We're building a really nice community, lots of interaction, and I'd love to see you in there. Next up then, it's going to be the other one I'm including from the same house. Completely different kind of thing here. This is Amber Cologne, a beautiful combination of citrus and floral notes. Loads of different citrus notes in the opening. We've got bergamot, lemon, white and pink grapefruit, sweet orange. There's cardamom in here, frangipani. There is also, crucially, jasmine sambac, a lovely prominent jasmine note. And just a really, it reminds me a little bit of Terracotta Parfum from Guerlain, a really nice summery, floral combination with citrus, and that's what you get here. Beautiful, sensual, fresh, smells extremely natural, not like anything you really find very often in a designer fragrance or many niche ones at all, and an absolute beauty with great performance, great longevity, not a beast in projection but good enough for me, and one of my favourite freshies Superb high quality stuff. Check out Bortnikov if you haven't. Moving on then, I want to do a contrast now, so I'm going to go with a real cheapie. This costs you just £12.50 in the UK for a 125ml bottle. I got mine on executiveshaving.co.uk or whatever in the UK. That is actually a really good site, and they have a few others from this house that I'm going to be featuring in a video soon. Also really good if you want, Pinard Clubman range of fragrances. Well, a great site actually. I like some of these aftershave, shaving based type websites. They have some good fragrances, and this is a classic, brilliant fragrance. It's from a company called Extro. It's called Fra Rinnik. It's got a weird picture of a monk, a complex note listing that it doesn't really smell like most of the notes listed, but what it does smell like is one of the best Turkish barbershop type colognes ever. If you've ever bought one of those really cheap Turkish cologne sprays for like £3 that smell lemony, they're okay, but this is like the real upscale, I'm going to sound silly saying this, almost niche smelling to my evidently uneducated nose version of that. Just beautiful fresh citrus, clean crisp white muskiness, and this kind of barbershop undertone, this almost talcum powder-esque thing. Very, very nice, decent performance. It's called an eau de toilette and an aftershave all at once. It comes in a splash bottle. I put it in a sprayer sometimes, or I just douse myself. I've re-upped on a second bottle. Fra Rinnik, check it out. If you're in the UK, Executive Shaving has it. You can source it elsewhere if you're elsewhere in the world. I love it. Okay, next up then, this is the other big house that's really blown my mind this year, and this is the house of Rogue Perfumery, and I'm going to do two from them. So this is a house where the perfumer is Manuel Cross, a former chef who has now luckily turned those blending skills of flavours and the stuff you do when you're good at cooking to making stuff that smells nice, and what a great job he's done. The first one that caused a real stir in the online fragrance community in the UK, when I'm in some Facebook groups, Mousse Illuminée, absolutely amazing powerhouse 70s 80s style fragrance reimagined for the 21st century. Some people say it's a little bit maybe reminiscent of Polo Green from Ralph Lauren. The great thing about this house, and there's a bit of a theme here because it's similar with Bortnikov, they use ingredients that you really don't find very often anywhere else. The slogan of the company is bureaucracy destroys art, and he's non-IFRA compliant, so he doesn't comply with the regulations which ban things like oak moss and some of the other ingredients. So this has real oak moss in it. It has other stuff that I can't remember all the different, but it's things that you may not find because they're not usually allowed to be used in your designer fragrances or your mainstream department store niche. Fantastic, great longevity, green, ferny, vibrant as well at the same time. Doesn't really smell like an old man dad. It doesn't literally smell as though you've been sent a bottle of fragrance from 1975 that you bought on eBay, but it kind of gets that feel across, but in a maybe more nice way that doesn't smell too hairy-chested medallion man. Does that make sense? It's high quality, brilliant stuff. Check out Mousse Illuminée from Rogue Perfumery, and the other one, which maybe just about trumps it even better, is Chypre Siam. Sorry, something's gone a little bit funny on the little bit at the top there. Chypre Siam. This one, of course, is a Chypre type fragrance. Siam is the old name, I think, for Thailand, and this has a little bit of exotic spiciness mixed in with a true classic old school Chypre type fragrance. I think apparently influenced a bit by Coty's Chypre, an early 20th century fragrance. It's beautiful stuff. It's got that lovely real oak moss feel. There's a bit of a leathery thing in here as well. I've got some of the notes actually written down for this one. Kaffir lime, basil, jasmine, ylang ylang, oak moss, sandalwood, spices, benzoin, leather and civet. So there is a leathery feel about this one for sure, and an understated leather note. Tiny twist of the animalic civet. Beautiful sweetness coming from the benzoin, reminds me a bit of a Guerlain style fragrance, and tremendous longevity and sillage on both these. Wonderful, wonderful perfumery from Rogue Perfumery. Moving on then, what have we got next in my list? Is there any order to this? Have I planned this? A little bit. Ah yes, this was early in the year that I got hold of this one, and it was sent to me free, I must confess. The Rogue ones I bought with my own money. Zoologist Dodo. Wow, is all I can say. Well, it's not all I can say, because I'm going to say other things now. So, of course, many of you will have heard of the House of Zoologists with their fantastic labels, and Joseph Delap, the perfumer, has created a fantastic sort of an aromatic fougere, but, I mean, if you're thinking, oh, not another one, because he's put a lot of those in this list, it's nothing like any real normal aromatic fougere that you smell. It's a very enigmatic, slightly strange but beautiful fragrance. The note listing is absolutely remarkable. Fern, lime, lychee, raspberry, ambergris, fir, balsam, geranium, rose, amber, feathery musk, whatever that is, oak moss, patchouli and sandalwood. It's got this wonderful sort of greenness, this leafy element to it. They're trying to represent the extinct bird, the dodo, so there's a feathery vibe, the kind of how do you represent feathers in a smell? I'm not sure. It's really hard to describe this fragrance, but it's beautiful, and it's a little bit old school, but it's got a very modern niche kind of smell. Lovers of other zoologist stuff may like it, but I think this is an under the radar one from them, not like some of their others that are very sweet or a bit more unisex leaning. This one maybe could be argued as a bit of a masculine style fragrance. Their own quote is, "Dodo is a paradox, like those extinct inhabitants of Mauritius," that's the dodo bird. The scent is at once classic and iconic, yet eerily unknowable and endlessly fascinating. I couldn't put it any better than that. Great stuff. What a wonderful release. And check out Dodo if you haven't already, from Zoologist. Next up in the list, we are turning over my little bit of paper which reminds me what to say, and we go. I didn't want to include any clones in this list, just to keep things simple. I do have and will continue to enjoy many of the new releases this year from Parfums Vintage, Dua Fragrances and Alexandria. I think there's some great ones, but I only have 9, so I thought I'd give a shout out to a smaller house that do clones. Pocket Scents here in the UK this year brought us a clone of perhaps my favourite fragrance ever, Bois de Portugal from Creed, and it is excellent. It's so close, it's unbelievable. It's called Lisboa, and I think the 50ml is about £35. Check out Pocket Scents if you're in. They're only in the UK so far. So close to Bois de Portugal. Great performance. Love that one. Let's go on to the next fragrance in the list. Without further ado, before we upset people who don't like clones. Next up then, I wanted to talk about Milano Cento Him Eau de Parfum. So this one is from the English house of Milano Cento. There was an original Eau de Toilette. First released in 1989, it disappeared in the 1990s and was revived in 2016. Now they have brought us the Eau de Parfum version. It's one of my favourite gentlemanly fougere style fragrances. The EDP is very, very similar in scent to the original Eau de Toilette, so it's a more of a traditional thing where you take the Eau de Toilette and just give you a higher concentration, maybe tweak it a slight bit, but it's very, very similar. Maybe smoothed out a bit more of the base notes and less of the sort of lemony citrus freshness of the original in the opening, but not a lot of difference in the scent, but enough to make it worth having both, or maybe worth thinking perhaps you'll prefer this to the EDT. The notes are lemon, petitgrain, bergamot, lavender, rosemary, basil, clary sage, sandalwood, patchouli, clove, cinnamon, amber and musks. So it's an aromatic, gentlemanly fougere type fragrance. If you like things like Fougere Royale from Hubigant, I sometimes get reminded of Xerius by Givenchy as well, then you're going to love this one. It has a really nice bottle design, which is exactly the same in the EDT and the Eau de Parfum, and I really enjoy wearing this. Great barbershop, gentlemanly, quite rich and warming actually, not just a sort of freshie. And it's got a real charm, a little bit of a spiciness, some warming kind of ambery undertones and patchouli, giving it this a little bit of depth to this one, and particularly so if you get the EDP, which has very good longevity and just decent projection, but not overly in your face. Sometimes that's the way I like it. We're near the end of the list already, so we've got 2 left, I think, if I've done my job correctly, which would make a change. It's, next one, Francesca Bianchi is the house. Oh, by the way, Milano Cento Him, I think it's around about £70-something for 100ml, so kind of just a designer price for a niche fragrance. Next up, Francesca Bianchi. I got this one early in the year, and again, I bought this with my own money. So, in most cases, I bought these. A couple of them were sent for free. Hope that's okay. Etruscan Water. This is my favourite from the house of Francesca Bianchi. Oh, beautiful. Some people have compared it a little bit to vintage Dior Eau Sauvage. I thought that was a pretty good point at first, but there's a lot more to it than that, actually. It's got a fresh citrusy vibe to an extent. It's also, and the company kind of marketing it as having this rather almost, well, no, actually outright animalic sexual undertone to it. The notes include bergamot and tangerine and grapefruit. There's petitgrain, basil, but there's also immortelle. There's a very pronounced jasmine note, and I think there was a fair bit of hedione has gone into this, which is also in Dior's Eau Sauvage, an ingredient related to jasmine, which has a very distinct and useful smell in making things last well and project, and a very sort of hard to pin down but slightly sexy vibe about anything that's got a lot of hedione. I usually find, I think there's quite a bit of it actually in Creed Aventus, not as a listed note though. In the base you've also got some vetiver, oak moss, labdanum, musk, ambergris. Really lasts well. Quite a lot of jasmine and citrus, but also this funky animalic undertone, and yeah, very very long very good longevity and quite good projection. Quite expensive, you can only get it in a 30ml bottle. I stumped up the money because I think it's worth it. I love the dark colour of the juice, so check out Etruscan Water. Also love the name of that one. Finally then, my last one. These were in no particular order, by the way, in case you didn't know. Miguel Matos. Now, this is a very interesting one because this gentleman is famous really as a fragrance writer, but he's got his own fragrance brand and he is the perfumer for those. And the one I'm highlighting today, I have two by this house. I also have Germain, which is really good, but here's the box. Very basic boxes. By the way, he says this isn't a perfume. It's a piece of olfactory art. It uses safe ingredients but can cause reaction in allergy-prone skin because, again, it's non-IFRA compliant. So he's using naughty ingredients that the regulatory people don't always allow in some of his perfumes. Anyway, no reactions on my skin. It's hardly likely to happen, but beware of that. Wow, wow, wow. Silverstone. Okay, interesting stuff this. Love it. It has this kind of classic vibe again, so sorry for putting so many in the list that are that way. Can't help my personal taste. The notes are lemon, lavender, basil, coriander, oregano, rose, violet, cedar, jasmine, leather, musk, sandalwood and oak moss. I pick up on a slight sort of salty sea air thing in here as well. It's kind, yeah, it is a freshie. It's got a classic vibe about it, and it's got something a bit different and I was going to say weird, that doesn't sound good, but something quite artistic and odd. It's not a very mainstream smell. It's very powerful in performance. They're concentrated at 20% perfume oil. It's from a gentleman who of course is a very very expert writer and now has dared to produce his own brand. The bottle is very simplistic, but I sort of like the minimalism of that. He's just kind of, it's all about the juice, and this juice is great stuff. Great longevity, great projection, very very pleasant smell indeed. Very different to anything I own, although it kind of conjures up pleasant connections in my mind with many things that I do own. Definitely quite spicy. The oregano, the coriander in there. There's an almost savoury food thing going on in here in a good way. It's not overly citrusy actually, but there is a freshness. I pick up on a salty sea air note, which doesn't appear to be particularly referred to in the notes, and there is this kind of leathery and mossy undertone, giving it a bit of a powerhouse vibe. So fresh, powerhouse, niche twist, not smelling like you just bought it on eBay and it's a 1978 bottle of whatever. A lot of my fragrances in this list have done that a bit, and I really like that. Check out the house of Miguel Matos. He does some awesome, really fascinating and artistic fragrances. Okay, so those are my top 10 discoveries of 2019. Not only discoveries, but they were all released this year. What was your favourite fragrance or fragrances that came out in 2019? What did you think of my list? Have you tried any of them? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks ever so much for watching. Whatever you're doing in life, let's project. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.